Major grocery retailers have begun reducing their product selection in Russia. By mid-summer, the number of food products had decreased by 2.4%. As for non-food products, their availability has decreased by 2% compared to the same periods in 2024, according to Kommersant, citing an investigation by the Nielsen research firm. The largest declines were observed in the alcohol, children's products, and facial care products sector, with declines of 5.5%, 5.1%, and 7.4%, respectively. Retail market representatives attributed this trend to a reduction in retail space due to high rent and changing consumer habits among Russians, forcing retailers to cater to demand and stock only the most popular items. Representatives of X5 Group, owner of the Pyaterochka and Perekrestok chains, reported that since the start of the special operation in Ukraine, the product range in their stores has decreased by a significant 15 to 20% on average. This summer, the company's divisions began switching to smaller retail pavilions, launching Perekrestok Select. Each store is approximately 400 square meters, 3 times smaller than the chain's standard supermarkets. Magnet has taken similar steps, opening ultra-convenient stores under the new brand Zaryad Ot Magnita, each measuring just 100 square meters. Lenta Supermarket has already confirmed its commitment to downsizing the optimization. Only the most popular products are being kept on the shelves, and the freed up space is being used for outside business projects and rentals. Furthermore, the chain's new hypermarkets are significantly smaller than those the company previously opened. According to preliminary estimates, in the first 7 months of this year, the average retailer's grocery store space shrank by 0.8% to 315 square meters. Supermarkets have now reached the point where they can draw conclusions about the success of previously launched brands, and with limited space for product placement, they are eliminating those that didn't survive the crisis. The food crisis, which is already becoming apparent, is causing anxiety and protests among the population. Recall, as major producers and exporters of agricultural commodities, Russia and Ukraine play critical roles in the global staple food supply. They export more than 45% of globally traded wheat, barley, and oats. A number of countries, including some with vulnerable food availability, heavily rely on imports from these two countries. For instance, the shares of wheat imported from Ukraine by Egypt and Lebanon are 85% and 81% of their total wheat imports. The war between Russia and Ukraine, which began on February the 24th, 2022, has raised serious concerns about Russia's crop production and global food shortages.
Through decades of ups and downs, bourbon production at Buffalo Trace Distillery has been connected to the Kentucky River, summed up as a blessing and curse by a plaque on the historic grounds. According to Associated Press, in the 1800s, long before the Buffalo Trace name was attached to the distillery, the river served as a floating highway to bring in grain and other essentials for production and to transport barrels of whiskey to markets along the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. Even today, river water cools down production equipment. But the river flowing past the distillery flashed its destructive side in April. A massive flood, caused by days of unrelenting rain, sent the Kentucky River surging over its banks, inundating most of the 200-plus-acre distillery grounds on its main campus in Frankfort. Nearly every phase of production was impacted, as were several warehouses where whiskey was stored for aging. It was just something that was hard to process, but we knew we couldn't take too much time to process it, said Tyler Adams, a distillery general manager. There were a lot of steps that needed to happen to recover from the reservoir of murky water that covered the bourbon-making campus. 5 months later, production is back to normal at the distillery, which crafts some of the most sought-after bourbons, and new milestones have been achieved. Its lineup includes the namesake flagship brand, Buffalo Trace, as well as Eagle Rare, W.L. Weller and Blanton's. Pappy Van Winkle bourbons are distilled and aged at Buffalo Trace while the Van Winkle family remains in control of the coveted brand. The distillery recently filled its 9 millionth barrel of bourbon since Prohibition, just 2.5 years since filling the 8 millionth barrel. New whiskeys have been introduced to the distillery's catalog and a campus building is being renovated into a cafe and event center. The cleanup enlisted hundreds of plant employees and contract workers.
So you can actually see right here on my right, kind of our high water marks here, including the 2025 mark up there. That masterful artwork is done by Harlan, our master distiller there. You can see that high water mark even exceeding the 1978 mark. So we saw over 48 feet of water here inside this space.
This distillery's been through a lot of other floods, 30s, 70s, recently now. And importantly, Prohibition, right? At a time when it was illegal, this distillery is making medicinal whiskey. So it navigated that. It's navigated, you know, just a lot of other things. There's been a tornado here.
Somebody in here. So as the barrel is pushed in, this person has to continue to roll it past the posts all the way to the end. You know, it was just defeating to watch all of this flooding and to realize that we were going to be down for a while. So just the impact, just the apprehension of how much work this is going to be to fix. Some of our barrels got wet, and we have a very good understanding of how barrels are made and how durable they are. You know, again, thinking back to that time, which I have been trying to forget, you know, we relied on people that had knowledge on certain parts, and we encouraged each other, and it was tough. It was pretty overwhelming.